Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Wellness Blueprints. I'm Jess Milner. I'm so glad you're here to nourish your roots with me. So, today I want to talk a little bit about food sensitivities. Okay. This is something that comes up all the time. It comes up in conversation, it comes up clinically. It's one of the main things that people would test for. When I was doing muscle testing in office, and people still test for it when I do distance muscle testing. And of course, people will say things like, oh, well, when I eat this, this happens, and things like that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that because what I'm seeing a lot is people doing things like, saying, oh, well, I have my let's see, like I have my gut issues under control. Maybe they have a bacterial overgrowth that they're suspecting, or they have a fungal over, candida or something like that. And they go, okay, well, I have it under control. I just cannot eat anything with sugar in it, anything with any kind of grain in it. I can't eat anything with vinegar. I can't eat anything with this ingredient or that ingredient. So people will say, they'll go, okay, well, I noticed that I have everything under control and I'm not in any pain. But when I eat this, then it hurts again. So they go, okay, well, I'm sensitive to that. I can't eat that food anymore. And so of course you are correct while you are experiencing this. But I want to talk a little bit about this because there are a couple different things that go along with food sensitivities. And so when I would tell people that they were sensitive to something in practice, often it was something that they would go, "Oh crap, I didn't like realize that I was sensitive to that." For instance, like I come up sensitive to corn pretty often. If I, decide that I want to enjoy some popcorn, like I'll get the lesser evil popcorn, because it's made with like avocado oil or coconut oil or something, like that's really great ingredients and everything, and organic. But nevertheless, sometimes, I'll be like, oh, this is going on, that's going on. And like, I'll have somebody test me. And sure enough, they're like, oh, it's a food sensitivity. And I was like, well, I bet it's corn. And it usually is. So for me, it's like, okay, well, I get sensitive to corn. Now, when I eat the popcorn, or, whatever else it might be that had corn in it, maybe it's a corn tortilla or something like that. I don't necessarily feel yucky afterwards. I won't necessarily feel bloated. I won't get a stomach ache or anything like that. I'll start to notice that some other things seem off, and then that's when I'm like, oh crap, I bet it's the corn, right? But the thing is, you don't always notice that you're feeling sensitive to it. So the way that I would always explain it to my patients is, you know, when um, when you have something going on. So let's say there's something in your gut is stressed out. And so maybe you came up for a fungal or parasitic infection or something like that. Uh, and I say, okay, so you're sensitive to these foods here. So basically, what that is saying is that your body is like really, really sick and tired of having to process that food. So when you consume that food, your body is sitting there going, oh, okay, all right, I'll process this food, but it's going to take a lot of my energy. Okay. And then what happens is these other things over here are not getting taken care of because your body is spending so much energy to process that food that you were actually sensitive to at that time. So, when we first started this journey, my daughter, my one daughter in particular, came up for wheat, corn, and dairy, and she was a really, really good sport about it. Honestly, I'm really glad that she was like 5 or 6 when we started. She's turning 12 next week now, so now she might argue with me a little bit more, but she was a really good sport about it. She would do the dairy-free cheese if she wanted. We would make her a pizza at home on, like a gluten-free, corn-free crust. And, we made it and she was fine with it. She did really well. And she stuck to that for probably, it was probably close to a year that she stuck to that until she tested back on those things. And now she can eat those things without any issue. But the thing was, she was sensitive to those things. She actually had, at the time, we were going after this rash that was on her leg, that she had gotten after going to Great Wolf Lodge and going in the hot tub. It was my first experience ever, like, having anybody break out and anything like that. And there was actually more than one family member that broke out that way. So, it wasn't just her, but she, like, this rash just like would not go away. So we go through, and I had this tested and everything, and that's what we were finding. We were like, okay, well, we want this to go away. So we don't want anything to stand in the way of all of these other things that she was doing, supplements she was taking and things like that in her program to get herself better. So we kept her off of those things. And, so then her body was able to do its thing. And now she's fine. She's good to go with those foods. So, sometimes there's going to be foods that I'm not going to tell you, like, yeah, go ahead and eat that again. And that's going to be if you have like a legit allergy to something. Okay. Like if your airway closes up, or you're like having a severe, any kind of, like, even not anaphylactic, but like some kind of like severe reaction, to a food. No, I'm not going to tell you to eat that anymore. I'm probably also not going to be like, yeah, have at it with like all the refined sugars, seed oils, and additives and artificial food dyes and crap like that. Okay. I'm not going to shame you if you eat them, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I never ever consume any of those things, because I do live in America. Hopefully we're going to be making some changes in that realm, but nevertheless, that's where we're at right now. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I never eat those things. So I'm not going to shame you for eating those things, but they're never going to be a like go right on ahead kind of a thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, like I said, the allergies, we're not going to tell you to eat stuff like that. But for the most part, you will be able to reincorporate some things into your diet, because sometimes it's things like meat, or it's like, okay, well, you're sensitive to beef. You can't eat beef. Okay, well, beef is good for you. So as long as you don't have like a medical condition that keeps you from having beef. I know I have a friend who has a son who has had a tick-borne illness that made him, like, basically his body was like rejecting like all kinds of animal protein and everything. I don't remember the name of the thing or anything, but something like that is legit. And it's like, okay, no, we're not gonna be like, well, it's healthy for you. Well, it's not healthy if your body's rejecting it. So let's be real, right? um so when we have these sensitivities, it's important to avoid it for a certain period of time, so that your body has time to do all of the healing that it needs to do without interruptions. Being able to use all of that energy to go after what actually needs to be done, rather than, like, all right, let me digest this food again that I shouldn't be, having to process for you, because your body's like, oh my gosh, not this again. And like I said, this doesn't even, you probably don't even have a bellyache after it. And then on that same kind of note, I remember when I was in the thick of my IBS, and I had IBS before it was like even named. And honestly, it's such a ridiculous name. They're like, oh, well, we don't know what it is. We'll just name it irritable bowel syndrome. Because, yeah, there is some sort of a syndrome. What the doctors are not realizing is that this is because of fungal overgrowth, of bacterial overgrowth, of parasitic imbalance. I mean, the microbiome is mad, and it doesn't want to process any food. So for me, and I know lots of people have this issue, they're like, well, I, drank some chicken broth and still had an IBS attack. And you're like, what in the actual F? Like, what is going on here? Why is my body rejecting broth? Like, for crying out loud, right? And it's not that the body is rejecting it there. You are sensitive to things because there's other stuff going on in there. So if you're like, okay, well, because I used to avoid like fatty foods and stuff like that, probably because like all of this was going on, and it was affecting my liver, it was affecting my gallbladder. I was not able to process the fats in the way. So I was having worse issues when I would eat fats and everything. And it's not that fats were bad. You need fat. We need fat to live. You do need to consume fats. It is what feeds your brain, and protects all of your organs. And so we need fat. Like, provides energy for so yeah. So it wasn't like, okay, well, I need to go completely fat free, because if you're like completely getting rid of like one food group altogether, I mean, therapeutically for a while is one thing, but to just be like, well, I'm never going to eat fat again. Okay, well, your body is not going to like that. Your body's going to be like, no, 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 no. Well, we need fat. We got to eat it. So, I was having all of these issues with eating almost anything, and it wasn't the food that was the problem. Now, of course, I did have to make some dietary adjustments just so that like I wasn't in horrible pain all the time. But now that I have gone through and I have healed that I've healed my gut and my microbiome is now, normal or better balanced and everything. I mean, there are times when I'm like, oh my gosh, like I ate too much of this, that, or the other thing, and things feel a little bit off. But, now I know what to do to make it feel all better much quicker to rebalance everything out. So, you shouldn't be having, major reactions like that to foods that are like normal things that you should be eating, unless there's some sort of an allergy or something like that. And then, of course, the other part of this with food sensitivities is that, if you were noticing that everything is all honky dory and under control, except for if I eat all this stuff, because then what happens is eventually the list of foods that you can eat ends up being much, much smaller than the list of foods that you can't eat. And I mean, if that's really making you happy, who am I to tell you to change? But I will say that there is still work and healing to be done if that is the case for you. If you have this list of food that you just cannot eat because it makes your candida or your bacteria in your belly go insane and then you don't feel well, there's still work to be done. We still need to work on balancing that microbiome so that you don't have that issue. And then you should be able to consume those things, somewhat without having those kinds of things go on. Now, I mean, if you ate nothing but sugary, vinegary, carby, grain, blah, blah, this, that, and the other thing, you're going to make your microbiome go right back to where it was, because it got there in one way or another. And there are many different factors that get you to where you are. So obviously, you're going to have a time period where you're going to avoid those things just so that you can have comfort and just so that you can allow your body to heal. So when you are like, okay, well, I've got this, this fungal overgrowth, and I'm working with Jess, and she's got me on these supplements. We're going to go in, and over the course of a few months, we're going to go in and we're going to basically break down and destroy what's going on in that gut, give the body what it needs with, vitamins, minerals, and all those good things, and make sure you're getting your fiber and all that great stuff. And then we're going to rebuild the gut and, give. So as you're going through and doing all of that, yeah, you might want to be still avoiding some of those things or most of those things, and then start to gradually add them back in little bits at a time once you've gone through and done the work. And then at that point, you can figure out, okay, do I need to do another round of this? Do I need to still avoid this for a little while? Maybe my body needs a little bit more healing for this. Sometimes you got to do more than one round of a 90-day supplement program. I mean, I like to keep things consolidated down to 90 days of a rigid supplement program, because I don't want you to have to spend $10,000 on like 6 months worth of supplements and stuff like that. So, we started off small and work our way and to get everything on like a nice wavelength where it's jiving with the rest of your body. So and part of that, of course, is that we want to work on the spirit body too. We got to work on the energetic body to make sure that anything going on there is attended to, is addressed and acknowledged and observed, so that it can make the proper blueprint for the physical body. So that's going to be a part of it as well. But if you're still going, okay, well, I'm just never going to eat this food again. I mean, if you don't like it, you don't want to eat it, okay, that's fine with me. But especially if it's something that you used to enjoy and you realize that you can't have it anymore, I'm here to tell you that you don't need to be sensitive to that forever, that there is more healing to be done. And once you get through that, then you're going to be able to enjoy those things again, most likely. Sometimes it takes 3 months, sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes it takes a year. It all depends. And it is also important to understand, because I'm not real like rigid with what your diet looks like necessarily while you're going through a program, but all of the guidelines that are there and any sensitivities that I tell you that you have, it will be important to follow those things. And the more that you cheat, the more you're going to set yourself back. So, Like when you're just trying to lose weight, for example, you can have like a nice cheat meal or even a cheat day every week within reason. And it's not going to mess with your weight loss efforts. It actually can even kind of like reset the metabolism there. It's not going to mess with anything. Having one meal, like people are like, oh my gosh, I'm going to gain 10 pounds on Thanksgiving. Well, you might feel that way. You might feel super bloated after you eat all of the things and then shove some pie in there on top of it, but you're not going to actually gain 5, 10, 15 pounds from one super crazy meal. Like that's just not how it works. You won't do that. So don't worry about that. However, when you're talking about a healing program where you are trying to fix something in your gut, you're trying to get rid of this histamine thing going on in your liver so that you can, eat walnuts without your mouth itching again because you used to eat them and there was no problem at all. And now you're suddenly like, why am I reacting to this food that I never reacted to before? So we're going through and we're trying to clean out the liver and the lymphatic system and everything. So if you were to eat a food that you came up as sensitive to during that time that you were trying to heal something else in your body like that, it's probably going to set you back a little bit because, like I said before, your body is going to go, oh my gosh, we are sensitive to this. And it's going to, I can process this, but it's going to take some energy. And then that energy is going to process the food because the food has to be processed. It can't just, sit in there indefinitely. So your body will process the food, however slowly that might go. You might get some heartburn, or, sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm just not digesting this food. It happens. Sometimes things are a little bit slower. Sometimes things go faster and you're going, oh my gosh, why did I just poop that out already? So it's going to be at different paces and everything, but it will set you back some. When like if I say, okay, you got to stay away from rice, and you go, okay, well, I'm going to whatever I'm going into this sushi restaurant with my friend for her birthday, and I'm going to have rice because there's rice and sushi and this and that. Well, okay, but this is going to set you back. And then I actually had that happen more than once, in fact, where someone went and they were like, well, it was my mom's birthday. We went out for sushi. I said, okay, well, you're definitely, like things are backwards. Your organs didn't improve all the way, and the reason is rice. And oh, look at that. Now you came up for soy too. So while your body was busy trying to process the rice, it also got tired of the soy. And now you have this extra thing there. Soy is a really common one that people come up with as well. It's usually, it'll be like all grains and soy as well, because soy is not a grain, but it's like right in there with that type of category of things that people come off of a lot, up there with dairy and eggs. So, most of the time it is not forever. Okay. If you have some sort of like estrogen thing, then, possibly soy is not going to be your friend, because that might, alter what your body's already trying to figure out if there's something going on where you're producing too much estrogen or not enough or something like that. Because I've seen people have issues like that. But, I mean, we avoided grains, we avoided gluten for a couple of years, to the point where I have people like asking me like, oh, I'm going to make lunch for your daughters. Is anybody gluten free still? I'm like, nope, we're okay. Like, everything's fine. At this point, I do use Sunrise Flour Mill for all of my baking. They have heritage grains. They're pre 1950s, and so they're not. They are grown in the United States in Minnesota, I believe. I'm not looking at their website right now, but I'm pretty sure it's Minnesota. But so it is grown here, but it is pre 1950s wheat. This is basically, it has all of the goodness and doesn't have the glyphosate and the atrazine that are stuff, even the organic stuff on the shelves in the grocery store. Is not, it's not pre 1950. So it is compromised with this American blech that we put all over everything. You've probably heard people say it all the time. They go to Europe, they eat all the baguettes, they eat all the pasta, they don't feel bloated, they feel energized, they feel nourished, and that's because they don't do all of this shit to their food. So I'm hoping that we're going to be changing a lot about that, but it's going to be taking some time for sure. But we use Sunrise Flour Milk. I know that there is at least one other company that does have a good flour as well, but I don't know the name of it. I don't remember what the name of it is. So I realize Sunrise is not the only one out there. I have like a reward referral. If you look in my if you look on my site, it's I don't make any money off of it or anything. I think they might send me like a coupon or something like that. But I do really like their products. You can get sourdough starters. They do have pasta. They have the wheat berries if you want to grind them yourself. I have a couple friends that love to do stuff like that. They have different mixes like pancake mixes and scone mixes and stuff like that. Or is it scone? Ooh, forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. Um, but anyway, so that's one that's something that we like to use, and then of course, if you are avoiding things, I loved using Thrive Market regularly when we were avoiding things because you can just type in, I need something that is corn free, and they will bring up stuff that, I mean, you still want to read it, but they will bring things up that are corn free, grain free, like, or grain free. If you put in grain free, it'll be corn free because corn is a grain. It's not a vegetable. Just thought I'd mention that. You make sugar out of it. It's great. But anyway, so yeah, food sensitivities, there are, there are just some things out there where people either don't realize they're sensitive to something and they don't understand the ramifications of if they eat that while they are on a program and what it's going to do to your progress. And people also don't understand that handling something by not eating a certain foods and saying I can't eat all of these things or my belly hurts means that there is still more healing to be done. And sometimes, you get to a certain spot and you're like, okay, maybe I'm not going to heal anymore. It depends on the type of condition. Some people are more prone to things. And if they eat certain stuff, it just throws the microbiome off more. And that might be something that happens. And that's okay because then we can learn how to navigate around that. So I do try to share recipes and ideas and stuff, different swaps and everything, because I was in that place for years. I was in that place. You can ask my husband, you can ask my in-laws, my parents, my friends, people. There were times when like we would be the people that rolled up to the party with chips and salsa because I wanted to make sure I had the Siete chips that were grain free because whatever salsa somebody else brought is probably a-okay for my kids, but they can't have the corn right now, so we can't have the corn tortilla chips. So I would always bring that, bring something. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm bringing this because I know, and my kids would know that they could at least eat that, and then we would just go around and go, okay, well, let's see what else on the table is going to be okay for you at this particular gathering. And like I said, it didn't last forever. Now, pretty much, my kids go up to the table and they can have pretty much anything they want. They ask about desserts because, especially, they go, "Mommy, is there dyes in this?" Things like that, because we do still try to avoid the dyes. And some of the stuff I'll look at it and just be like, you know what, that's probably full of all kinds of seed oils and soy, this, that, or the other thing. So maybe stick with this or whatever. But for the most part, they don't have all these restrictions. They can go up and they can eat whatever chips are there, in terms of that, and when you're at a party and somebody has chips there that have seed oils in it, it's not ideal. But it doesn't have to be the end of the world. But while you were going through your healing program, it's not the end of the world, but it is a huge setback a lot of the time. And I got to emphasize, especially with seed oils, it can be a huge setback. People don't realize the type of inflammation that actually occurs when you eat that, especially ones when they are in those processed foods and stuff, they are rancid before they get in there, just like they're rancid before they hit the shelves, so, because they put the stuff in there to get rid of the smell and everything. So you wouldn't smell it if it was rancid. It's just not a good thing. And the amount of inflammation that is caused inside the body, it definitely shows in the testing and it sets you back in your program. So with seed oils, I know it sucks to be that person to be like, I'm sorry, I can't eat this because it has seed oils in it. But the easiest thing to do is just bring yourself a little something to eat. Even if it's just you, or if it's just one of your kids, or just your husband, or whoever it is, bring something just for them so that they have something to eat, and make sure that you talk about it. Okay, and whatever happens, the kid goes up and eats something they're not supposed to, don't flip out, don't shame it. Like, we're going to be okay, all right. But let's try to avoid that, but at the same time, like, it's not a cause to like completely flip out, and certainly not a cause to go, well, I suck, I quit. Don't do that. No need to quit. There's always a way to pull yourself back up. So yeah, so I just wanted to explain a little bit about the food sensitivities there and give you reassurance that if I do tell you, hey, this is something that you're going to need to avoid while you're going through this program, it's not because I don't want you to be happy. It's not because I want you to just, absolutely suffer throughout whatever holiday or celebration it is. If you need any, if you need any swap ideas for Christmas, Thanksgiving, anything like that, reach out. Okay, you can send me an email or you can get into my DMs. Send me an email at hello@deeprootedwellnessid.com. And, I will be absolutely happy to give you some insights. You can let me know the different things and be on my socials because that's the type of thing that I will share. I even, because I have content from years past that I used and everything. So I would be absolutely happy to share that with you. Okay. So I think that's about all for today. I just wanted to let you know a little bit more about food sensitivities and what it actually means for your body and how to go about it so that you can make it easier for yourself and hopefully get past some of those sensitivities so that you can go back to enjoying those things that you absolutely freaking love. And, you just don't want to have a sad life without, ever eating ice cream again. So one way or another, we're going to figure out how you can enjoy something like that without having a major consequence or setting back in your journey. Okay. All right. So have a wonderful week, everybody. Bye for now.